Okay, so we're at the point now where we're going to do the overhaul on the 4R70W, or actually the reassembly. So we're gonna do this in two parts. I'm gonna bring it up to where I install the pump, and we'll get that done, and then we'll do the second part because I want to make sure everybody's got it down on the valve body. So we'll reassemble that and finish it up. So that'll be part two. So right now on this one, we're going to cover a lot of important things is bearing installation. These guys. So these can go in, some of them can go in one of two ways, except one of them's going to work. The other one's going to have you kicking yourself because you have to tear it apart. It's always the bearing in the bottom that messes you up. This is the big one. We got two bearings similar in size to each other. You can see they're very close. These two races here actually fit in the same spot where these two walls right here, these ribs. Now we want the big one in the back. This is one that's going to take all the thrust of the whole drivetrain here, so it's got to be the bigger one. This one would go. This is the one that goes between the forward and reverse drums, and it would fit down there. Only thing is, you wind up with this one at the last, and you go, hey, this won't fit, and then you realize you got the wrong bearing in the back. This one may or may not survive, but this one you can't get the drums together. So I'm going to put the big one in the back where it goes. Sits right down there in the back of the case over that boss. Those lands that were on it go down and they center it up. Now we're going to drop in the output shaft. It's this big guy. We've got our rings on there, stuff. You can see that. I'm going to grab it by this little centerpiece for the direct drum. We're going to lower this big boy down in there very carefully. And like the book says, sometimes you got to shake stuff around a little bit. And you wiggle it and you can see it goes around real pretty. Okay. So now we're going to put in my direct drum. This is what we have to drive the planetary. So the direct drum goes down in there. Now, this is the fully assembled direct drum with the hub, the bearing, the spacer, and everything installed correctly. And you can see the hub kind of walks around a little bit. That's because the planetary will go in and center it up. Now I got to put the bearing in there. This one goes on the bottom of the drum. Okay, so we're going to stick that on there. I do this sometimes. I can put it down in the bottom, and you can see there's a lip on this thing right here. So I'm going to put that lip facing down, and it centers right in a little kind of a recess down in there. Now I'm going to lower my drum in there very carefully. Now you can see that rotates real nice. All right, so we got that in. Now, before we put the planetary in there, the big carrier, we're going to install the low reverse band, manual low reverse band. There's a couple of lugs over in the case down there that are going to anchor in right here. My servo pin will come in here. This can go in this way, but then the two lugs go here and the center pin goes here. No low reverse, okay? So I'm going to put it in with the lugs facing those other two. Get that set in there. And it goes in real nice and smooth. Some of them, new ones, sometimes you got to prime in just a little bit and get it set in there. So now my planetary is going to go. You got to remember this planetary, this little guy's a little bit heavy, okay? So there's a way to put this in. Normally put your fingers in there. Well, I can't get it. This transmission a little taller than I am. I'm going to put it in there, and then I'm going to kind of wiggle it around a little bit. Well, it went right in. So the gods are smiling on me there. Okay, so you can see now we've got the ring gear with the output shaft put in, and they got our direct drum, got my manual low reverse band in place, and the planetary. So now we're going to put in the center support for that planetary. And on the bench, you can put this in and you turn it counterclockwise while you hold the planetary and it goes in. Here you can't spin the planetary, and this has to be locked into the case or lugged in, so it's not going to spin. This little cutout is going to clear that pin you see right there. That's the hold or the lug for the overdrive band. So see, that sits right in there. What I do is I take my stub shaft and I drop it in the center right there. And then I get screwdriver. It's just a little bit long. And I'm going to go to the short pinion down there and grab a hold of the framework on the planetary. And you can kind of, whoops, not that part. Let's put this in here. Let's see, where'd that guy hiding at? Here he is. I'm going to throw my forward sun gear in there. That's what I want to do. It's a little bit better leverage. He's going to rotate it. And then I'll just use him as a lever point. And let me get my thing out of park here. And we're going to rotate that planet. Whoop. Go easy, stub shaft. Let's see. Well, we got something going here. Well, it is starting to go. So I'll have to rotate the. Sometimes you rotate it by hand. Well, that's a little rough there. There we go. Okay. Oh, feels like Monday here. Sometimes you got to kickstart something. So here we go. Right there. Here we go. You rotate it, and the center support drops down. I'm going to get this out of the way for right now. Let's see here. I got kind of a little bit rough there and make sure I didn't mess up anything there. Okay. So we got the center support down in there. Now, at this point, there is this center support. When the transmission engages, the center support kicks back and forth like this, and you get this noise. Now, I'm just doing this by hand, but when you're in the car and you put this in gear and you have the engine torque, this thing is really loud. It's like pow. It feels like somebody hitting the bottom of the car with a hammer. So this little guy's got to go in. This is our anti-clunk spring. And what it does, it takes up the cushion of that center support hitting the inside of the case. It doesn't let it hit. Now this guy's tough. So when I push it down, it's going to go right in here. When I push it in, this thing gets under a load and it's wanting to come out like a rocket ship. So you got to be ready. Have your safety glasses on. But you got to be ready with your snap ring. So I'm going to... Now, it'll shoot in there by hand. Now, this thing here, whoops, does one of two things here. It either flops in there, you know, just real passive like, or when you take it out, it either just flops out, or it comes out like a rocket, like I said. You never know what you're going to get. Kind of like that box of chocolates here. So now I got it in place. I'm going to drop this snap ring in and cover that joker. And just to make sure it's all the way down, just tap that little... Oh, he wasn't all the way down. I'll tap that little spring down right there. And there you go. All right, he's trapped. So he can't go anywhere now. That snap ring's kind of weak. Just keeps the center support from popping out, but it keeps that spring from popping out too. So anyway, that's all in. You always make sure these fingers are over in the cutouts over here. So that's the rear portion. And kind of general rule of thumb when you're building, if that snap ring goes in pretty easy, then you're pretty good under here. You haven't got any bearings flipped over or anything like that. So we're doing okay. So now I'm going to put the forward sun gear, and this bearing here is going to go on it with these little lips facing up. You drop that guy in. Okay, everything still turns. And now my reverse sun gear goes right in on top of the forward sun gear. There he goes. Now we got another bearing. It's going to go on top of the reverse sun gear. It's got a couple little lips right there. Those go down and they center it up. Okay, now my forward clutch hub has a bearing right there. This is what the drums will sit on top of, but that goes in just like that. And now here's the part that gets forgotten sometimes. It's our little stub shaft. This, remember, is driving the direct drum, direct clutch in the very bottom down there. It goes there, and these splines are going to go into the forward clutch. Now I'm going to put the forward clutch and the reverse clutch together, because you remember when you go into reverse, turbine shaft drives the engine drives turbine shaft drives forward clutch. Right here, forward clutch drives the reverse clutch hub, and the reverse drum is going to grab onto it. And you can see where I put that bearing right here. So I'm going to put these two drums together. All right. Now I put them together. This is the way I do it, and I put both drums in there at the same time, because now all I have to do is spline the forward clutches and these lugs right here for the reverse drum and the reverse sunshell. And you kind of have to, like the book says, you kind of have to wiggle and twist, and I pull up on the shaft a little bit, and it helps them find the grooves, and boom, that's in. Man, piece of cake. Look at that. It's going to wiggle a little bit because the pump's going to center all this up. Now, I want to put the overdrive band in. The overdrive band, remember, is a flex band, okay? Now, it when you put it in there, let's see, I'll make sure you got a good shot of the servo pin. I think that is right there at the end of the screwdriver. There's my servo pin, a little silver thing I'm hitting right there. Now, I put it in partially. I just kind of shove it in so I can catch the end of the band with it. That pin right there, that thing is a little bit touchy. You want to put, since this is a flex band, if you put the band in and you don't install the pin, then what the band does, it opens up and the pin goes right past it when you go to install it. So a lot of times you want to install it right now. You install the servo. So see, I can put it there on this lug, and I can bring the band around and see how it snapped away from it. So I would be missing my servo pin. So I'm going to pull that around a little bit. I may need a smaller screwdriver. Let's see here. Just like that. And what I may do is put my screwdriver there just to kind of hold it against the pin over there. And let's see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to see if I can rotate this but I'm going to move this out of the way here. And I'm going to roll this guy part ways. We'll see if you can see that. This is my overdrive servo right here. That's what's sticking into the case. I'm going to roll it just a little bit. So there's a tool that goes over this. I left mine at the school. So, so what I did, I made one here. And basically what you want is something just to take up that difference. So I went ahead and installed the servo so we wouldn't have to take a lot of time putting this tool on here. And get your little dainty pry bar here. And some snap ring pliers. And what you're going to do, I'm going to put this guy right under here. Get above that snap ring. I'm just going to, whoops. And you can see, sometimes a little trial and error there. So I'm going to put it again, get a better bite on it this time. I should have known that. The tool works a lot better, you know. I said, well, that's a 30-mile trip here. Whoops. You know what? I think my band might have had other ideas there. No, I caught the band. Good deal. That was just the screwdriver falling loose because the band went slack on it. So I'm going to pop that in there a little farther. And what you got to do is you got to push it in pretty good ways because there's a set of snap ring groove down there. So let me grab that. Boy. You can see what I'm fighting here. Let's see. Where my little adapter went. All right, first thing we got to do is make sure I didn't lose my band. Yeah, I did. Okay. We got it. Let's give it another shot here. I'm going to set that over. Let's try it again. Never say never, right? Yeah, I kind of thought, well, I'll make this tool and everything will be great, you know. Sometimes you got to make your own stuff, but when you make them in a hurry, that's what you get here, so. All right, let's see if this works this time. Now, these snap ring pliers are going in the little grooves right here, little notches in the snap ring. And if the snap ring's not worn out, man, this works great. But if it's worn out, it's a little bit of, like I said, can make you work a little bit. Let's see here, come on. All right. Let's see, now, get a help from the little old, pull that screwdriver out and we get a little more travel out of that snap ring. There we go. Things you got to get Mr. Screwdriver in there. Okay. Without the tool, man, you are really fighting that servo. I mean, it's just kicking your tail. There's a spring on this thing. I would have pulled the spring out, but that spring, it looks like a coil spring under that. It's probably about, I'd say at least about a 200-pound test to get that thing compressed. What the reason being, you don't want overdrive coming on very harsh. You want that spring to kind of fight that pressure and give you a nice smooth apply on the overdrive band. So you can see there's the pin in there. I think you can see that. Let's see if I have to illuminate it. And yeah, so you can see the servo, and it's got that band trapped right there. Let me get my paws out of the way here. So I got that band trapped right there. All right, so we got that in. Now we're going to go with my intermediate clutches. And on the intermediate clutch pack, these guys, the frictions and the steels, we have this big guy here on the top. Actually, he's going to go on the bottom. You got to think about this as a clutch drum. The piston's on the on the pump. The intermediate piston is. Now this steel, you can see it's indexed here. You got this big lug right here. It's going to go over here to my left. Drops in like that. And then right on top of that, you get a friction. And then a steel. And the steels just have even spaced lugs. They can go in whatever way. Yeah, here's and I know some of you guys will say, hey, there's burnt spots in those steels. Well, this is a trainer, you know. We've got the new ones. This right came in like this. I got to get some steels put in it. I didn't know what kind of shape this one was in until I got it home. I said, well, it'll work. It'll work. Merely for demonstration purposes only here. All right, so there's my steels all the way up. And got that all in. And now we're ready for the pump. And what I'm going to do, you always want to install your gasket. Don't forget your gasket, because that thing here, that'll come back and bite you. I always put a little bit of Transgel, just a little coating on there, just enough to hold the gasket in place, keep it from walking around on me. I'm going to install this. Here's all my holes at the bottom, and let's see here. Of course, I got it backwards here. Let's see. Oh, no, I was right. Nope. That's it. Letters go up. Stupid. All right, there we go. I'll get it centered over there, get my bolt holes lined up. And then what I like to do, good practice from the field, I always just take a couple of old valve body bolts or whatever they were from, as long as the thread pitch was right. And you could put them in a couple of holes, just opposite of each other. It holds the gasket in place, plus guides the pump down straight. And then I always put a little bit of Transgel right there, just on the lip, just to kind of make that pump seal just kind of slide in there. That way it doesn't give you any resistance here. Okay. Let me get my pump. That way I don't accidentally, oops, miss the gasket hole, or you rotate the pump and it messes up something, so you got to pull it back up. But all I got to do is hit those 2 bolt holes right there, just like that. Dowel pins. You take your BFH, your big hammer, and you just give it a little tap. And you can see it goes down real easy. And that's solid. You can hear that reverse sun gear bell, that drive shell ringing out. Okay. My pump bolts. Put these guys in, and of course you got to drop one. When you drop, I got the handyman fat man's tool right here. You just bend down, pick that up with your magnet, and drop in these bolts. Take your dowel pins out. Now it'll take me, let's say, about 3/8 ratchets around here somewhere. Oh yes. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run these down by hand first, and we're going to torque them. Now the torque specs, these right here, I think right off the top of my head, I think these are about 18 to 20 foot-pounds, I believe. Pump body to case bolts. And here's what I do. I get 2 bolts bolted down. It puts an even torque. It's not much, just barely hand tight. I'm going to grab this input shaft right here, just this portion, just the turbine shaft, not the stator. I'm going to grab the turbine shaft. You hear that? That squeak. That's that. And the other click, click, click. My mechanical diode, and the other one was the low reverse one-way roller clutch. If those 2 are moving, my clearance is good. If that shaft is locked down or is really tight, sometimes you can move it with a pair of pliers. If you can move it with pliers, it's probably okay, but you shouldn't have to grip it like a King Kong or anything and try to turn it. It should be fairly loose. But if you can't turn it with pliers, with a reasonable amount of force, then stop. You've got something out. You got a clutch out of place or something like that. But that's a pretty good indication that your in play is okay. I'm going to show you something here. Just let me do this here. I'm going to finish this. We're going to torque these. Always got a torque, man. You see, I got a couple of these marked yellow because we had to have some thread repair done. So we'll get the torque wrench. I've got this set to 10 foot-pounds. So I'm going light on this thing. Let's see, we're still pulling down a little bit. Whoop, forgot to turn my beeper on there for a second. All right. All right. I had it on silent. All right. Okay. Let me shut that off, okay? Alrighty. So let's see here. We're good here. That's the stack up, guys. That's the short and sweet of it. You get just a little bit of pull up on that thing. Not much. It doesn't take a whole lot. Don't have my dial indicator. You can set that thing up and guys pull, but that's my test. Man, if I can turn it by hand, I'm okay. And it gives you a little resistance. It's a little hard to turn, but it should be. If you're turning it by hand, it should be, but it still turns. So, All right, what I'm going to do, let's see, let's roll this guy on his back. I may have to readjust the camera here. Let's see. Yeah, let's do a little adjustment here. And what we'll go ahead and do is do this valve body. Whoops, sorry. Let me shake everybody up there. There we go. All right. We're going to go ahead and do the install valve body. Now you notice I didn't put in my low reverse band servo. That's because that one, that rigid band, that low reverse band, that big heavy guy, he stays in place. He's a good boy. So bring a servo. This is that servo. You notice the weaker spring goes on the low reverse band servo. Okay, so I'm going to drop that thing in there because we don't want to hinder this guy from going into reverse. So I'll drop that in there. And then there is a cover that goes over it. Just like that. Now if you notice how weak the spring is, you can push that down by hand and hold it. Yeah, you got to watch out. Make sure that spring, yeah, it wants to come flying back, but not that bad. It's not a bad one here. I take these, I kind of give them a little bit of tweak there. And I'll push that down and start one end of it and walk it around. And let's see, where's Mr. Screwdriver again? There he is. Get that last piece on there. Right there. He's good to go. That one's in. Now we got this guy here. This is our third accumulator. This is for the intermediate clutch. Gives us a nice soft apply on third gear. And that goes in here just like that. And you kind of center it up. And these already kind of pre-lubed. This is a bonded, molded rubber on a steel piston. So these are pretty good. You drop it in there like that. And let's see. Let me scrounge and throw my parts over here. This gets a little spring here, a little shorty. And it gets this little sombrero looking thing sitting over it. It's going to sit. And that's that little piece I told you that can almost hammer through your spacer plate. So you know, always check your spacer plate, but that's it right there. The valve body actually holds this in place. Now over here, make sure you got a shot of this guy here. Yeah, you do. Let me give you a little bit more elevation there. All right. This one right here is my overdrive band servo. Okay, so this is kind of a two-stage. Now, this one has two springs. You got a long and a short. Long spring is going to go in the back of this piston. This goes in the case like this. So I'll drop it in there, drop the spring in, get the piston. Then this piston should, there he goes. It goes down in there pretty far. And you get the short spring, and then you get the cover, just like that. Now I got this snap ring I need to put in. This is a different set of snap ring pliers. It's right here. Now this one, sometimes, well, let me see. Let me try the other one here. I was going to do this in two parts, but right in the middle of this, I changed my mind. So you know what? Let's just finish this thing here. This one here, this one has been known to let you do it by pushing it in with your thumb. I say it has been known to do it. Not that it's going to cooperate, but it has been. Let's see. Maybe I was using the wrong thumb. Okay, let me get something else to push it here. We will try the magic hammer handle here. Get in the center. Whoops. There it went. Didn't fight too much. That's it. You just push it in. If you got it laying on its back, it's real easy. If it's laying loose on the bench, you push and the transmission trying to roll around on you. That's not too bad. That went okay. So we got all the servos in. You notice the pressure control solenoid goes into the case. I didn't change this out. To change it out, you would take this big nut off and pull the linkage out. You have to pull this pin out right here. You pull the linkage out, solenoid comes out, you put a new one in, and you install your linkage back. This will be held in by a bracket off the valve body. So now we're going to put the valve body back on. Yeah, let's see. Had it over here on the other table. Let me bring it into play here. Well, let's see here. I've got. Let's see, one more. I'm going to put a little bit of Transgel on this gasket here. Just to keep it from folding under on me here. All right. Here we go. This is the assembled valve body. Again, we had it on a different lab, a different task sheet. So we're going to install this. The two special bolts. These are alignment pins. See them right there. These are going to align in that hole and that hole right there. Okay. So get it all. One thing you want to make sure is when we're doing this in the school, this groove right here on the manual valve, it's going to go right there on that pin on the detent or the shifter arm right there, and you line up a couple of bolt holes. Bam, that thing falls right on there. Now when you install the bolts, here's a lot of guys can mess up on this thing. Let me move some of this. You got two different size bolts in this valve body. They're same size head, same thread pitch, 8mm head. This is a 6mm diameter bolt. But you see, you got two different lengths. You got some longs, you got some shorts right there. The short ones are going to go through the aluminum. Okay, just the aluminum. This steel plate, that gets the long ones right here. So, because they got to reach down through that steel plate, they have to cover a little more distance. So I'll take the longs, drop them in. Now these are shorts, so I'm going to start over here. There. Okay, let me just grab some more random. I just kind of grab them randomly and just put them where they go. Here's some shorts again. Short. There's a long one. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, when I took this transmission, some of these bolts were in the wrong place, like this one here. These two specialty bolts were over here, and they can, guys, some threads got tore up on these things. So, it's always, you always got to really watch where you're putting these darn things. If you start to tighten them down and they don't tighten down, that bolt don't go there, man. That's kind of a dead giveaway right there. Let's see, everything to the aluminum. Grab some more random bolts here. Let's see here. All right. Now I'm going to put the linkage. This is the detent tang or whatever people call it. It's just that's the one that creates that click feel you feel when you put it in gear. Now this bracket, this is the one that holds in the pressure control solenoid. It drops right around the solenoid and goes right there over that plate, and you drop a long bolt in on it. That keeps the solenoid from walking out on you. Another long one here. And let's see here. Whoops, not there yet. Not yet. That one's okay. That one. Okay. Let's go ahead and run these guys down. And again, what I use. Whoops, let me put this in here. Got one more shorty guy to install. You put this in with this roll going down right there on that tang. All right, guys, these threads are so small, and to save a little time. Whoops, wrong socket. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run these down by hand, and I'm not even going to go 10 foot-pounds on these. It's after I saw the condition on these threads, I'm going to have to take it easy on these things. I tried to fix a couple of them here, but I don't have that many thread repair kits here, so I'm just going to I'm going to hand tighten them just a little bit. But in the shop, we're going to run anywhere from 10 to 12 foot-pounds. That would get us through a session to see if it operates, and then we call it quits on that. You know, as you can see, there's some one should have gone there, so I'm missing a couple of bolts. I've got some short ones, but they were in the wrong place. That's why the threads got messed up. If you put in, see, like this one here, if you put in this bolt, when I contact the surface that's going to thread into, I've got about a 1/2 inch of shank showing on that bolt. That's the right one. That's how many threads are going to go in. But if you drop it in and the head goes almost all the way to the surface, that's the wrong bolt, because all you're going to be threading is about 2 threads. And when you tighten it up, those threads are pulling out of the case. And that's what's happened here. There was a lot of short ones, you know, and I kind of beat that into the class when we're doing these things. I have a little lesson on proper threads and bolt length and stuff like that. So I get that one. So I'm going to do it like this just to, when it's not like watching paint dry, I'm tightening 100 bolts here. So move that over to the side. Got that tight. That one, got that one already. When you tighten these, you want to start in the center like I did, and you start kind of working your way to the outside edges, because this is a big valve body surface, so you don't want to tighten at one end and work your way down, because that's what it does. You pull the valve body up like this, and then you're really trying to get it to tighten up down there on the last bolts, and it's not going to hold. Your last bolts are going to have a lot less clamping force than your first bolts are. You always want to start in the center and work your way out. Let's see, I think a couple more left and we'll be good. Let's see. I think that's one that got messed up a little bit. Right there. And then we get the last one. That's my detent, and see, there's my click, click, click right there. All right, so that's it. Now we're going to get the filter on there. A lot of times this seal can be replaced. I usually do. I don't have a kit here, but this seal, you know, it's never had any engine heat to it. But what you do is you take a screwdriver and pry under the orange seal and pop it right out. Put your new one in, and then you just take your filter. Again, there's that Dacron lining I was telling you about right there. This is a depth filter. Whoops, one step. We might want this to shift. We're going to get our wiring harness on there. Let's see here. Whoops, I'm going to put it on the right way. Huh? Okay, so this in here to the pressure control solenoid. And then this one here to the lockup, shift solenoids. And then over here to the case pass-through. A little tap. It's good to go. Pop the filter on there. We're all right. Okay, now we're ready for the pan. This gasket here, this is a metal rubber clad gasket, rubber bonded, and these things are reusable. Now you want to put it on right. It goes one way. There you go. The holes are a little offset. If you put it on backwards, you can't get the bolt started. Move this stuff out of the way. my random bolts here. All right, so here we go. Put the pan on. You can see the pan does have a magnet in there. That's what you want to inspect on a service job. Make sure that's good. One last double check. I do have a couple of bolts missing, so I'm going to look for those when I get this thing back up to the school here. Get some threads fixed on it. Drop your pan on there. These are the little shorty guys, little 10 millimeter head. It is an 8 millimeter diameter shank on the threads there. And you just get them, always start them. If you can start them at least 2 rounds. Get about 2 turns on those things. I know we're good. Two turns by hand. There's one that got messed up there, so we're gonna have to bypass that guy. So that's a thread repair that I don't have. If you're gonna do any kind of engine work, you're gonna do especially transmission work. This is the bad thing. These transmissions come into your shop for service jobs. Sorry about that. And R&R men, they like to put the bolts back in with an impact, and not good. You know, the only impact I've ever used on these things like this early on was a little butterfly type impact. These guys right here, little Ingersoll. This is super old. It's got low torque on it. It doesn't have a lot of torque, but man, you just, like this, you just do the butterfly handle, and this thing probably cranks out every bit of maybe 20 foot-pounds tops. But if you turn it down, man, it's just like you're doing it with a ratchet, you know. So that's what I used for years. So I'm just going to run these down. Now, I would have started on the center bolt there, but he's gone, so I can't, there's no threads. But start in the center, like I said, work your way out. Work your way towards the ends. I'm just going to barely put these on here. There's probably about 10 foot-pounds where I can judge by hand. So, and I'm almost going to hit the camera stand here if I'm not careful. All right, let's see here. A couple of more. Now 2 more. 1 more after this here. All right, now just a couple of things. Now we had our range switch. This range switch goes out here. It's going to go on the other side here on the shifter. And what you do is you put it, this goes around the shifter shaft. Let's say my finger is the shaft. And as you put it in the different gears, I'm trying to turn it by hand. That's kind of hard to do without tearing your finger off. But anyway, what you're doing is turning the center portion in here. There you go. I can turn it. There you go. And this right here will send the signal to the computer, telling the computer, see, let me get the pins illuminated for you. Hey, I think, hey, there they are. Right there. There's some pins in there. And the plug goes on. And as you put it in gear, you rotate this center piece like I just did. And that's going to tell the computer, turn on the backup light, or the BCM, turn the backup lights on, shows the Prindle on the dash, park, reverse, neutral, drive, stuff like that. Also, this one, they use it to tell the computer also, I'm putting it in overdrive or I'm putting it in drive. You put it in overdrive, you're going to get a 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4 shift pattern. You put it in drive, you get a 1, 2, 2, 3 shift pattern. So it's telling the computer a lot of stuff. These can be adjusted, and you put them on there. And if it's out of adjustment, you'll know it. You You can get some weird takeoffs. If it's far enough out of adjustment, you can get a start in drive. I mean, yeah, the car will start and drive. So you got to be careful. Be real careful in the adjustment on these things. Let's see, put the 2 bolts in here. Get it tightened up. And now over here on this other side too, we have the speed sensors. One of the first things I pull off. This is going to ride on the back of the case. If you remember on the here, I've got another one here. On the ring gear, the output ring gear, these lugs right here for park. This sensor is reading right off of those lugs, just barely. There's an air gap between them, and as the ring gear rotates around, then it's reading on off by the speed of how fast they go by, how quickly they break the signal. The computer determines what the vehicle road speed is, and that's how it adjusts to compares that with the throttle pressure that's being created, and that's how it determines where your upshift should be. So this is taking place of the governor that we used to have on the hydraulically operated ones. And then let's see, that's in. And last piece of resistance here is our gasket for our tail housing. I'm gonna throw that guy on there. Let me see if I need to adjust you guys here. Yeah, probably a little bit. Let's see. There we go. All right. So here we go with the tail housing. It's the last piece. It's going to slide on right there. Let's see, what's holding me there? Something? There we go. Okay, you got a couple of weird bolts here. I have like a little stud on them. Now I'm putting them down at the bottom, but that's actually when the transmission's sitting on its pan, they're up at the top. What goes there on that little stud, once you tighten these up, there's a little bracket that goes on and holds part of the wiring harness that goes over the top of the transmission. It's actually the wiring harness for the plug-in, and it just goes over the top and it snaps onto those 2 studs. There's a plastic shroud on it that snaps over that. So there's 6 bolts holding this tail housing in. I'll get them started. Let's see, I think 2 more. Oh yeah, right here. The other one down here at the bottom, or what will soon be the top right here. Now I need deeper socket. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Because of those studs on there. One, and I'll do this in star pattern too, just so I can draw that gasket up pretty even. And guys, you notice I'm not using any power tools putting this back together. You get in the field and you're doing a transmission overhaul, that's probably going to be the first time anybody's ever been into it. And you know, if you want to use like a little electric impact, don't put it, you know, gorilla type. Draw the setting off on it. Use it for speed. Once you get the bolts run down, then torque them. Always torque them. That way there's no question. You didn't over tighten anything. You didn't over tighten a gasket, you know, stuff like this. But man, it's great to have the speed on the tools, but don't let them go to your head. I'm just telling you, heads up, just from experience. Okay, these things hate over torquing. These things aluminum, everything's aluminum now. It really hates the over torquing. Yeah, let's see if I can do this without knocking the crap out of the camera here. Boom. Guys, that's it, everybody. That is it. 4R70W. Now you see how easy it went together. You didn't have to force anything. I didn't have to beat it. Well, we tapped the pump down with a hammer. Let's see. Let's get this back over here. We tapped the pump with a hammer. And other than that, you know, we didn't abuse this thing too much. But man, it should go together very easy. A little shaking, a little twisting, and everything goes in place. You get all your sub-assemblies built, the pump, the drums, the valve body, everything, and the case is all clean. You run it through the washer, and man, you just stack it up. This transmission, you can build this transmission, and the R&R man gives it to you, and you can probably have it done in, you know, 2.5, maybe 3 hours if you got lunch in there or something. It's a real easy transmission to build, but we use it because it's very forgiving, and you have a clutch pack for every gear. Forward gear, the manual low reverse, or the one-way roller clutch. That's first gear. Second gear, the intermediates come on. Third gear, the direct drum comes on. Overdrive, the overdrive band comes on. Reverse, the reverse clutch, and the manual low reverse band. So it's real easy on the power flow, but it's easy to understand how the transmission works. So that's the overhaul procedure, or the reassembly procedure, excuse me. And I don't know if over here you can see that range switch up at the top right there. That's where it bolts on. So other than that, easy peasy. Okay, and guys, I will load this up for y'all, get this thing uploaded here, and no, there's a task sheet that goes with it, but we'll talk about that on, I'll see y'all Monday morning. We'll get a Zoom going, and I'll have y'all look at this, and it's pretty easy, straightforward going, and we'll just move on from there. Okay, but hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will see y'all later. Y'all have a good day, and be nice to each other. Bye-bye.